join them, admit them all.
Good afternoon, everyone. If you're on the East Coast, good morning. If you're on the West Coast, welcome to another webinar series on behalf of Grant Engine. We're going to get rolling and get started as folks continue to join. Um, my name's Sam. I'm the founder and CEO of Grant Engine. We've got an excellent lineup for you that aligns to the small and medium-sized business community, to the primes, the large, well-established, highly capable companies that work with our nation's defense infrastructure, aerospace structure, infrastructure to drive innovation. And we're really pleased to have um, top flight individuals from Lockheed Martin and BAE Systems that represent their outwardly facing scouting teams in Joe, Sarah, and Bahare. And I will be introducing all of them here in a moment formally. Um, with me today is Josh Baron, who is a senior advisor with Grant Engine. He's to a great extent market facing, interacts with a lot of our clients. Zeb Orzi, who's a principal and executive director with us as well. Daniel Kolos, principal and VP of consulting on behalf of Grant Engine. And we have additional members from our team. Total count of our side is about 76 people, but they all won't be present here on the webinar, but certainly stand ready to support you in your journey. Um, a couple of items for just housekeeping. We do a fair amount of thought leadership in the company at Grand Engine, and a lot of that is on our website. So you can absolutely pick that up through the tab on our homepage under intelligence. And in particular, there are three links there. And in particular, the intelligence section of the website has a good amount of content and information that is fundamentally useful for you as a small business, you as a medium-sized business. In particular, there's a trend around counter UAS technology that is quite profound that Josh and Zev did a quick video, and we've got a significant depth of insights, funding opportunities. That's one example that exists in the broad repository of resources and support that we have for you and the overall ecosystem. And the reason I bring that up is that our blog and our website is a great resource as well. Our LinkedIn is a good source of information. So if you follow us or just check in every once in a while, you can also be added to our newsletter if you'd like to do that as we go. So for one last piece of housekeeping, if you are a reporter or with them or a member of the press, we are formally asking you to please disclose that that's the case in the chat. And we are recording this session. Each of you will receive, everyone that registered will receive, and each of you will receive, if you registered, the recording of this event, the slides, and a couple of other assets that are quite useful for the small business community. And I'm going to put those in the chat as well. So one of them, this is just assets that we have built. These are good tools. If you're a small business and you want to get funding, these are two really good tools that are an unlock for you. The first is an eligibility check for a small business. That is a dynamic and interactive tool that you can check your own eligibility if you're not sure. The second is an SBIR planning calendar that allows you to look at when you put your start date in, the length of your phase one, how long and when the money shows up, and how that can be handled. So those are just some assets that we've got that are in place for your benefit. And a key aspect, I should say, of what we're building here is to help you, our clients, and our partners, including um, Lockheed and BAE Systems, protect our way of life. Fundamentally, that's why Grant Engine exists, is to save lives and protect our way of life. And we do that by getting non-dilutive funding for our clients. Um, Josh, if you could pop up, I got one slide about how we work, and then I'd like to really introduce the speakers. Um, yeah, if we go forward one more, there we go. So this is an approach that we have found works at a very high level, very simple level, where we engage with you to help um, identify your strategy, identify specific funding opportunities, and confirm your competitiveness, your readiness. We do all that on a complementary basis. And then, as a second step, a key part of success in the defense space and infrastructure arena, whether it's DARPA or Big Army, is to engage with the agency stakeholders and embed yourself with them to create buy-in. And lastly, we are very good and have a top flight team to help shape and submit proposals. So that is a lot of that's a high level about how we work. And a full third of our work here is engaging with you that doesn't cost you money to confirm this makes sense in a relationship to build together. Um, and that is an effective start to what we see as a long-term partnership and relationship with our clients. Um, so that's a little bit of a perspective and a sense of how we work and that we're in this for your success. Um, and in the towards the goal of saving lives and protecting our way of life, right, as a society and as a country. Um, a lot of work with small business programs, SBIRs, OTAs, et cetera. But a lot of what we do also is supporting our clients in their growth stage. Maybe you've gotten some equity, maybe you've gotten some additional funding, and you want to engage. And working with established primes is a very effective strategy for a lot of reasons. So if we could jump to the next slide, I am really pleased to introduce um, our speakers that are really here to drive and deliver their backgrounds and their experience. So Bahare is a technology scout for BAE Systems, part of Fast Labs, and that really is a mechanism for them, BAE, to interact with um, you and build relationships with you, align with funding agencies, and help you be successful in your business model in the context of the unique and special capabilities that BAE has in the depth and breadth of that large, multinational, well-established prime. Um, Bahare is based in Nashua, New Hampshire. So for all of you that are in the Northeast, she's physically there. Sarah is the Director of External Innovation and Technical Scouting at BAE. She's based in Austin, um, has a PhD in chemistry from UC San Diego, and follows that same theme of interacting with you in the ecosystem as early and growing companies, as well as venture investors, and really how do you integrate disruptive technologies to protect our way of life. Um, Joe is based in Palo Alto, so one of the hubs of innovation in the Bay Area. He is the strategic partnerships lead for Lockheed Martin Space and um, went to school for his bachelor's and MBA at San Jose State University. They each of these three know each other well, and we're pleased to have started this relationship. And we are excited about bringing this content to you and really bringing these relationships as a start to you. So I'm going to stop my part of the talk and hand it over to Josh. Um, And as he does that, Dan, we've got a couple poll questions just because those are fun and interactive. So Dan, if you could post the first poll question, and Josh, I'll hand it over to you to pick up and go through your process.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. My name is Josh Barone, and I'm a senior advisor for dual use technology for Grand Engine. I'll start with just basic question we can all ask ourselves. Why would a small business want to work with a prime to pursue R&D funding, non-diluted funding for the federal government in the form of an SBIR, OTA, or another mechanism? Well, there are a lot of reasons for it, but for the first and the easiest way to understand it is it can really increase your odds of winning. And if you want to understand that, you have to look at it from the lens of the reviewer from the Department of War or from the Department of Homeland Security or NASA, wherever you're going to be partnering with a prime, most likely with the Department of War, because that's where the majority of the funding is. The first is when that reviewer is going to compare a solicitation or a proposal from a company, a small business that has a partnership with a major prime, which has a history of delivering and understands the Department of War's needs, and another company that doesn't have that partnership, you can imagine that it signals to the reviewers that this company that has the partnership is on another level and has a better ability to deliver on federal contracts than a company that doesn't have that same relationship and doesn't have the same history of delivery. So it validates you as a company, but also helps you bridge ultimately towards the main goal, which is, and if you're going after SBIRs or an OTA, the main goal is to get to a sole source contract. In the SBIR world, it's called a Phase III. That's commercialization and deployment, where you're actually delivering that technology that we're in the midst of developing to an actual customer. And the relationships that the primes have, Lockheed Martin and BAE Systems, they have intense relationships that are based on years of working together. And they have been doing this for a long time, and they know what the end users actually need. And they have a history of getting it done and delivering to a sole source. And what that also enables, once you're engaging in this relationship through, let's say, an SBIR Phase II, where they're a subcontractor on your SBIR. It's a small collaboration as far as the dollar amounts goes for them, although it might be more meaningful for the small business. But that initial collaboration builds a relationship and trust. And once that actually leads to technology developed, you develop a partner. And that can lead to major contract opportunities, because that's not just about the SBIRs out there. There are bigger opportunities, whether it's in the form of R&D dollars or if it's in the form of actual mechanisms to lead to contracts. It's aside my slides in the right order. Why, on the other hand, would primes want to work with you? Because it's important to understand both sides of the coin. Well, primes generally want small business partners is made very clear today by our partners, Lockheed and BAE Systems, joining us. And why would they want to do it? Because they have fast access to edge innovation. Small businesses have the ability to move faster and to develop really risk-heavy technology that can lead to real serious breakthroughs. And large primes can then integrate them into their major platforms. And think about what that really looks like. You have incredibly complex and long-term contracts which the primes are involved in, and small businesses can be those partners that add a component of a highly integrated system. And last is it can lead to future M&A investments from the corporate venture funds, and it can lead to new business. So I'm just going to look at the pathway. You have an innovative small business, and you have a prime contractor, and you have that funding mechanism which can create that initial partnership in the form of an SBIR, an OTA, a CSO, a different type of R&D dollars get into the pipe. And that leads to solving new challenges, which leads to new business. And then later on, that can lead to future development. It can lead to an investment or an acquisition, and it can be a tremendous exit plan also for a business. So we're here to hear from the primes themselves. So I'm going to turn over the keys of the presentation to Drs. Sauersharf and Barry Ajisi. We'd love to hear how you view engaging with small businesses and what it means for you at BAE Systems.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Bahar Hajisai, Technology Scouting Director for BA Systems. I do have some slides, but before I show some slides with you guys, I just wanted to make sure that you are familiar with me and Sarah. We are the two technology scouts for BA Systems, and I was looking at the first question, and most of you apparently are like asking for who we contact, and it's us. You found us. It's me and Sarah. We are the first ones that you can contact, even if we don't have like an immediate contact and team for you. We can try to find the right appropriate teams to connect you to them. As the technology scouts, we look for small businesses, startups, and sometimes universities, depending on what kind of universities they are. And if we don't have any connections internally with them, we try to match them to our internal folks and right teams. We call ourselves matchmakers. So we try to make sure that you are connected to the right scientists internally, and you can start communicating with these teams, and hopefully it will end up in us working with you. Our business model is collaboration and partnership. We do leverage government funding, and we go after government funding with the small businesses that we want to work with to start, projects together and get some funding to start the projects. And of course, the whole goal of all of this is we want the technologies that we find, the external technologies, will be complementary to our technologies, and then at the end, it should go to our business areas and products, which goes to our customers. So let me let Sarah to introduce herself, and then I'll go to the slides.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Yes. So as Bahare and I mentioned, we are the two tech scouts. We do a lot of external things. You'll see us at various conferences. One's targeted for small businesses and startups, just big conferences in general. It's hard if you just look at BAE with 40,000 employees in the US, you'd think it would be easy to find the right contact. But, so many scientists and engineers, it's even hard for us to navigate internally, who's the right contact internally. So we even face that issue being employees of our own large organization. So yeah, we're always happy to connect. And we even, are familiar with other primes sometimes. In contacts there, we sometimes sit on panels with some of these other same primes, and so like Joe, for example, who will go after us, we've been on panels with him in the past too. And so sometimes if we're not the right prime, we may not be able to find you, but the other one, but we try to help out wherever we can. So my other really quick little tidbit takeaways is sometimes you think, well, you're a prime, you must want to buy our technology, but not every prime does everything. And so sometimes it's a matter of just figuring out which is the right prime that would be interested in your tech. Don't just blindly go after all. And so, it might take a little bit of homework on your part of who should I go after, or which prime. And even then, each one has its own sectors or business areas or segments or whatever they want to call it, and trying to understand that and navigate that first before you go after some different organizations. So, okay, I'll hand it back over to Bahare to get started with some of our slides and more information.
And Bahare, as you're doing that, there's a question around the sub-segments or the types of technologies that you and Joe are interested in. You saw that. Yeah, thanks.
Yes, I saw that. I was hoping that I can answer. Do you see my slides?
Got it.
Okay. Hoping to answer that in a few slides ahead. So we don't have to talk about all the things here, but I just wanted to mention Sarah and I are part of our R&D arm called FAST Labs, which is the R&D arm for one of our sectors called electronic system sector. You know, R&D, anything related to R&D, we do for our business, for our sector. And under Fast Labs, we do have 4 product lines with different focus areas, of course. You can think, I mean, I can't think of anything that we don't do. I mean, maybe biotech we don't do, but mostly anything related to electronic warfare. So it could be sensors, EOIR, RF sensors, quantum sensors. It could be anything in terms of signal exploitation, AI, ML, autonomy, some maritime. Most of our maritime work are like the components that we put on platforms, sensors, and etc., and some, of course, software behind it as well. We do microelectronic systems, advanced manufacturing, cybersecurity for platforms. So basically, we cover everything within Fast Labs, and these Fast Lab teams within Fast Labs, we are feeding to our other business areas, which is my next slide. We do have, under electronic system sector, we do have 7 business areas, including Fast Labs, which we put it in the middle because we are kind of like the R&D arm for all of these business areas. And, you know, I mentioned what we cover in Fast Labs, and here are some of the here are the other 6 business areas that we have: control and avionics solution, electronic combat solution, power propulsion, C4ISR, countermeasure, electromagnetic attack solution, and precision strike solutions. And we do have a website. Technology Scouting has a website. If you want to take a picture of this, or, you know, get a QR code here, you can scan. It takes you to our website. Talks about like what kind of organizations we work with, what kind of a little bit talk about what kind of focus areas we have, some articles that you can take a look. And also on the bottom of the page, if you scroll down, you will see what Fast Labs does, and you can click on all those links and do, as Sarah said, do your homework to figure out like what we do within Fast Labs and even other business areas. So I'll give Sarah the other 2 slides. Go ahead, Sarah.
Okay. So we do not, sorry, we've been on a couple of different calls talking about tech scouting, so I don't think we've talked about this yet, but you know, in the US, we do not do investing. And so we, you don't, if you come to us and say, will you invest in our company, that doesn't happen. There's a little bit of investing in the UK parent company, but that's not at all what our focus is. And so we want to, as this pretty graphic shows there, really drive collaborations, partnerships, technology development, and so on. And so as we've mentioned a couple of times, on Fast Labs is what we call our R&D group. We are the bottom right there. We are the technology scouting. It does say venture capital on there, but venture capital in terms of, we like to work with a lot of venture capital firms. We ask them, who are you investing in? Is it companies that we should be interested in? They're a good pipeline for us of companies to try to work with. And then sometimes we provide feedback to them about, hey, here's the technology we're looking for. Have you, can you help fund some of these organizations? And sometimes we've made some connections for some of the startups that we really like. The university, same thing. Maybe it's technology that we're really interested in. We've done some capstone projects and some partnerships with the universities, but it's really the research. And we've written letters of support for some universities going after STTR funding. We work with a variety of accelerators and entities. We've done our own custom accelerators, which Bahare can talk about in a little bit, and support SBIRs, primarily from sometimes letters of support if it's technology that would benefit us in some way. We don't just write anybody a letter of support. If it's something that BAE actually cares about, we might be able to find a contact to get you a letter of support for that. And then but then sometimes very, very, very minor cases, we might be a sub to someone on their phase 2 SBIR. But that's if we really see a path to wanting to work with them, and that just makes it easy for our folks to have some sort of funding to be able to actively do that engagement. And so then bottom left, we obviously spend a lot of money internally on R&D, but our R&D groups do go after a lot of external funding. And so on there lists the kind of the 4 focus areas of R&D. It's changing a little bit here and there over the years. They kind of reorg some of those, but those are, it's pretty consistent. Yeah, that's about it for that slide, I'd want to say. Another way of breaking down how we work with this, a little bit redundant, but another really pretty graphic that we had of you can see once again venture capital in terms of we work with venture capital firms. We work with a lot of innovation type companies. We work with a lot of corporate venture arms too, of part of other large corporations. We work directly with government. We're always trying to make new partners and connections. So we like to call ourselves, as Bahar mentioned, matchmakers, and every which way we can to kind of see what tech is out there to try to bring in and introduce to our scientists to develop some partnerships. So, anything else you want to add to this slide, Bahar, or is that?
No, I think we covered everything, and we let folks to ask questions later. So these were our slides, and I'm gonna stop sharing.
Okay, so next up is Joe Epstein from Lockheed Martin Space. Joe, I'll get your slides up in a second. Let me know when you see them.
Thanks, Josh. And thanks for Grant Engine for having me today. Again, my name is Joe Epstein. I'm the Strategic Partnership Lead for Lockheed Martin Space. I tell people that my role is to identify and champion emerging technology from external sources. I work primarily with small businesses and startups, but our team also works a lot, just as was mentioned with previous BA, we work a lot also with universities and those collaborations. So go over to the next slide. And this just gives you kind of an overall, again, I work in one of 4 business areas. Mine is space. So my focus is everything that deals with the portfolio that has to survive in the 1G environment. But important thing about this slide is that Lockheed Martin obviously has all the domains that we think about: sea, land, air, and space. And that interoperability, all of our business areas do work to develop technologies that could work with each other. And that types of technology, that kind of modular aspect is really, the government is pushing on us to get more. So not only do we have to work across all our domains, but we also have to work with companies, our prime competimates, sometimes we call them. The government is really looking for solutions that do work across many different platforms seamlessly and quickly. And so that's just one of the things that I keep hearing our customers really pushing on. And so next slide, please. I put this on the slide here. People say, well, what kind of technology are you looking for? That's a very difficult question for me to ask. So again, you ask me just for a little tiny part of what I work with at the Advanced Technology Center, where I work with, which is the R&D area of space. This is just the high level chart. Each one of those technologies on this chart has got 10 or 12 charts behind it. And so it's a, what technologies are we looking for is a very difficult thing. Obviously, though, at the high level, we are doing things, and I always want to, AI, data analytics is definitely getting to be more and more of digital engineering is getting to be more part of our industry. Another interesting thing that was said to me early on in my career was that we put an antenna on everything. So every platform, every component, everything that we make at Lockheed Martin does have to have a communication strategy. And so we obviously have to deal with everything that deals in the RF and those types of ways that we can be protected, and obviously low latency communication with high fidelity. Next slide, please. So again, why would we, I think it was really good that I'll try not to repeat everything that was said before. Why do we want to work with small businesses and universities? Well, we want to leverage that large ecosystem. Lockheed Martin employs really fantastic, high qualified research scientists, but we can't fund every interesting, needed thing to do in technology development. So we have to leverage the university and small businesses to do all of those, that breadth, that wide area of need in research and development. And I think an important thing to also talk about, which was kind of touched on, is that we really, when it's a great argument to make to our leadership of why you're working with small businesses, because they take on the technology risk. Right? I can work on these requirements and come up with a solution, and we all know how difficult that's going to be, and you taking on that technology risk at the low TRL level, where every entity is working on it. Once the TRL starts to rise and we start to see which solutions seem to have merit or have feasibility, then it comes to be a part of how Lockheed Martin can be a much better integration partner. And that's how we really want to see ourselves. And we want to do a better job of that, of really see, Lockheed Martin as the transition partner to those novel emerging technologies that can really, as they've said before, really solve some of those difficult problems at the mission level. I really want to talk a little bit. I mean, obviously, innovation, R&D funding, and the strategic benefits are to me kind of obvious. That customer relationship is something I always preach about with companies, and I think it was also touched upon a little bit in the previous slides from Grant Engine, making those connections with the TPOC, the technical point of contact that writes the SBIR and SITR. That's your first person that you should be really engaging with. They're not always available, and sometimes they're not always the expert for the specific SBIR topic, but that is your first window into exactly somebody that can explain the problem that the government wants to solve. And small businesses, startups, and universities get access to a lot of these thought leaders within the customer set that we often don't get to. And so keep on engaging them. Not, hey, how am my company going to be funded, or hey, can we win this project? But really understand their technical background and the technical challenges they're working on, and engage them at that level. That will give you a wealth of knowledge and a great area of access that will help, I think, make a better proposal and better technology. So go on to the next slide. So I think that's important to also recognize, and one of the things we really preach in our when we're engaging audiences like this, is that understand that Lockheed Martin is 4 separate business areas, and understand what each one of those business areas do. Right? So aeronautics, F-35, C-130, they're making everything aircraft oriented. They have a whole specific technology set that they apply to. Same thing with our rotary and mission systems, as well as our missiles and fire control. And do the homework and understand which one of those business areas is where your technology is. I mean, we put out the simple thing: if you're doing something that's going to work in an underwater application, maybe the missiles group isn't the right one to talk to. Who is the one that would support those maritime underwater systems, right? I know sometimes it's not always quite as obvious as it seems, but those separation of technologies into 4 business areas is how is the best way to engage Lockheed Martin, engage the right persons. And those persons are all kind of listed there. I realize it's kind of odd. One of our business units likes to give our roles to a lot of people, and that's how the business area likes to operate. And then so each one of those in those over what we call lines of business within the business area. But you can see the other leads for those 3 other business areas. And so we are out and about. We are the ones that answer emails. We are the ones, when you have an ask for a letter of support, you're going to be contacting one of us depending on that topic. And I really also wanted to stress too, is that when I said before about what technologies are we interested in, the SBIR, STTR, think of it as a RFP or an RFI. The government is actually socializing exactly what they're seeking solutions for at the component level. And that if you see that, then you start to understand, what are the specific issues technology-wise that they're looking to solve. If you approach the SBIR, STTR from that angle, not our amazing technology is going to solve this major platform, but seeing it more at the component level, I think you'll have better success at the SBIR, STTR level. So just one more slide. There's our QR code. Hopefully this is the most important slide here. This is how you get, I was also amused that the overwhelming poll question was like who to get a hold of, because like, oh, that's an easy one. That's me. So, but you know, as we work on and involved, you know, SBIR, STTR, you make a connection to me if you're doing that. I am the one. We kind of have a very standard format of, we ask you to do a little bit of homework with a quad chart to our format, and then we set up a technical interface meeting to evaluate your SBIR, STTR, and for and the end result is that if we are looking for it as a feasibility for a letter of support. I will also touch on with Josh, those SBIR leads to more impactful relationships when we can do subcontracting on your SBIR Phase II proposal. And those are ways that if they get awarded, we can help, you know, tread a little bit lightly on your award, but, you know, but also help shape the development to the platforms and kind of what we think the customer is seeking. And I think those are the ways when we get our qualified engineers really working with your engineers, that's when I see the relationships work the best. And we can work on those strategy, business decisions, and where it fits in our overall capture strategy much later. But I like to see if that Lockheed Martin subcontracting on a SBIR award, those are where those initial engagements work. And that is the easiest way I've seen many companies work with us. And so we also have access, obviously, we have our own venture wing, Lockheed Martin Ventures. I have a regular standard cadence with them. And so we work cross together. And so there's also areas where we get involved, and we can also work, you know, with capture teams. And if you make certain specific parts already, that's in our supply chain. That's a whole other part of the company. So again, I am just the person that's looking at the component level of technology that's not developed yet and why the government's asking for it. So happy to take any questions.
Awesome. Yeah, Joe, I think that's made some great points there. And so did you, Dr. Sarah and Ray. At the end of the day, the SBIR program seems like it's small peanuts, you know, compared to the type of programs that, you know, major organizations like BAE Systems and Lockheed are dealing with. But ultimately, it's an engagement. It's paid for by the government, and it can lead to something substantial while you're developing that relationship long term. So, yes, absolutely, agree with both groups on that account. We're going to open it up to questions. Maybe we'll see through. Is that, do you see any question that hopped up in the chat?
Yeah, there's a good question that came in just at the end there where, you know, someone wanted a little more, a better understanding of what sort of like treading lightly on the SBIR Phase II awards would look like. So, you know, without maybe quantifying it exactly, could you talk a little bit about, you know, what that partnership would look like and how that can transition from Phase II onto, you know, a further contracting vehicle, Phase III, maybe like a true program of record? Is there any sort of example that you can think of that that sort of exemplifies the success of that process?
Is that question to me, Zev?
Yeah, sorry, Joe. Yeah,
no worries. Yes. So, you know, I try to turn that term treading lightly in that if companies want us to do a lot of different things on their because we have amazing capabilities and talent, but we can gobble up a lot of that money. That's why we don't even work on Phase I. So treading lightly, we try to organize, you know, what is the way that we won't eat up too much of that award, but can also do something impactful. And it's always kind of a dance. And I don't want to throw out a number here in a public forum, but that's what we aim to do. And as you know, and as we work together, and yes, we have had many successes. And we've heard great feedback, not just from the small businesses, but also from our customers. I don't think it was even mentioned here that SBIR gives a lot of contract agility. There's a nice little term for you. So when you're doing a capture, you don't need to do a trade study if you have SBIR technology. There's also the customer sees. If it sees SBIR technology, that's going to give it, oh, that's where I spent all this funding. I finally seeing that in something that I'm going to see. So those subcontracting, as the technology matures, as it moves up the TRL level, we look for those opportunities where there would be an appetite within the company and in the customer set for those transition opportunities, and that's not always easy.
Thank you for that. I think that nice things. Sorry, Josh, do you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to open up and ask Barre and Sarah, do you guys view SBIR in similar form, or is it a little different by BAE systems?
No, we used to, but since we don't have the bandwidth, we don't announce like, you know, the other primes, what kind of SBIR topics we are interested. But we do always ask the small businesses we work with to come to us with the specific topic that they are planning to submit to. We provide letters of support to those companies if we feel that at some point we're gonna like work with them in the future, and so it's usually like the other way. You know, they come to us with a certain topic.
Okay, awesome.
In that vein, when companies are coming to BAE Systems, do they come? Is it easy for you guys to identify what contracting vehicle with say the DoD or any one of your customers they would fit into cleanly, or is there some sort of legwork or homework that you expect small businesses to do when they approach you to kind of fit cleanly into your operations?
So it depends on, as Sarah mentioned also, like we sometimes sub to small businesses if they have phase 2 SBIRs. We don't sub to anybody with phase 1 because it's a little bit more money and nothing will happen there. So phase 2, you know, so if it's SBIR and if they want us to partner on that, we go with that. Most of the other kind of contracts we have are directly to the government folks like DARPA, Air Force, you know, Navy. And if there is a BAA out there, there is a topic out there, you know, and we have a specific company to work with and partner with, we go after and go after that together and propose together. And sometimes we do have some successful you know, a relationship with some of the companies that they came to us with some topics that we had no idea, you know, that topic is there because of the good relationship that we made with the startups. You know, they came to us like, do you want to go after this, for example? Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I wanted to ask a question to all three of you guys, which I think is very relevant to a lot of the small businesses that have joined us today and you know, are in the US small business ecosystem, which is from an IP perspective. Are there certain ways in which you guys make sure to kind of leave the founders confident that their IP is secure, that you know, that things are sort of laid out on the table and clean, and everyone feels confident in the collaboration that is you know, hopefully going to happen?
I'll take that quickly, Zev. This often comes up, and I totally respect that. That's your sweat equity put into it. You know, Lockheed Martin prides itself on its ethical standards, and I wouldn't work at the company that if it didn't. It's something that is ways that we're drawn to. But we also have a lot of you know, structural things in the way we do things. Our emails have to have labels that we put into it. So if we see third-party proprietary information and I pass this on to another person, I have to label that. And I say all this because if there was any part of our business model that was built on taking other companies' IP, we wouldn't be around very long. We would be sued into non-existence. And so please understand that Lockheed Martin and you know, many of the other primes, that is the least of your worries of them. We totally respect it and we totally understand where you're coming from, but we absolutely do not do anything to tread on other companies' IP.
Yeah, same as with us, definitely. I mean, so whenever we start talking to small businesses, usually the introduction is we tell all the teams that we don't have an NDA, so let's be like at the high level discussions and to make sure that we are interested in the technology. And then if we are, right away we sign an NDA, making sure everything is covered. And And regards like IP and licensing stuff, we always like refer to our team when they start working with the small business to make sure. But ethically, we are definitely, as Joe said, we don't want to get sued. We are always like making sure and that everybody knows about all the details and So Sarah, did you want to say something here?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably sometimes why it makes it hard for us to just blindly invest or give R&D money to a company, because if we pay you and you develop the product, then why then you own the IP and we don't. So that's why we go after external funding together rather than us just funding you internally with our own money.
That makes a lot of sense.
So
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I know that's a bit of a there's a bit of a stigma around that, or like a misconception, and so it's good to just hear that from the source and know that there really aren't any deep concerns. And to the three of you, I wanted to ask one other question, which I see has come up in the chat in some form, which is someone wrote that they're Ukrainian and making a private AI model for the best drone military unit. I'm wondering, just generally speaking to all potential foreign small businesses that are looking to do business with you guys, is there a pathway for that? How does that work? And how interested or uninterested are each of your organizations in exploring foreign collaborations?
Yeah, I'll take a quick stab at that. For my role, I can't. I don't have that ability. We have a whole part of Lockheed Martin International. I would say the growth potential is opening up a lot more of those partnerships, but it's still a difficult thing that we're working on. And how we attack that as a company, it's evolving to this day, and I think it's going to be getting a larger share of our business. But for right now, my role, if you can't apply for a SBIR STTR, it's not going to go very far.
Yeah. I also just want to put into context Grand Engine's role in the ecosystem. We are also here for our active clients and prospective clients to help shape and position your product. Sean, you mentioned a tremendous track record of progress that you've made in getting awards. You're ready to work with primes, even at your stage, and companies that are farther along or earlier in the life cycle. We can help shape how those interactions are best positioned for companies like Lockheed and BAE. There are boundaries of what they can do, what they can't do. Intellectual property is always important. But that's part of why we wanted to do this webinar, and part of our role in helping protect our way of life is to help those communications happen and help to shape your success, which is our clients. We work for you, and we want, I think all of us, including the primes here on the call and others, are oriented towards that mission. And together, that's a rising tide that can happen. So whether you're, Sean, at your stage where you've gotten great awards and you're, I'd say, more mature because of the awards you've gotten, or you're a young, earlier stage company, there's a mechanism that we can help provide direct access. In addition to the QR codes that you saw, we've got and continuing to deepen relationships with Bahare, Sarah, Joe, and others that will help you in the life cycle. So that's part of our role as a member of the ecosystem. And a very good place to do that is in DC in October. From October 12th to the 14th, the Army USA, or AUSA conference is being held. We are going to be there, and Lockheed and BAE will also be there. I think Sarah's personally going to be there, and Joe's going to send us some folks from Lockheed that'll be attending as well. So that event, we will be hosting a reception on Tuesday evening, but that's a great place to be in person, Sean, for you and others, to just help bind and start those dialogues in a formal way. So we're happy to help facilitate that as just part of our role, Not that you couldn't do it on your own, but having friends always helps.
Yeah, I would say from our perspective, it isn't. We work with entities that are foreign. It is not a deal breaker for us. It is a lot harder with the amount of work that we handle. That's what's called ITAR restricted. It makes it a lot easier if you've got some sort of U.S. entity subsidiary. There are some groups more willing to work with foreign entities and some not so much. So it really depends on your technology and can we collaborate in some way without and be able to share information that's allowed to be shared across different foreign entities. So depends on the work, but it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thank you for that. Oh, yes, Sam. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna you pick up here, Zeb. I was just gonna make mention that we've got, if you didn't see the poll question, and you'd like to meet at AUSA, there's a poll question in the Zoom, so you can jump on there and answer that. But back over to you, Zeb.
Thanks. Yeah. I was just going to ask for the three of you, do CMMC requirements or any sort of compliance and regulations around, like a stature of a sort of maturity make a difference into the companies you guys are trying to work with? Also, TRL and where things are in the development, does that influence the interest in sort of partnering with small businesses?
Let's see if Bahari, if I'm not saying anything wrong here. So I don't, for our perspective, I don't, you don't need some of these CMMC, SOC2, some of those other requirements initially. If you just start plainly emailing us stuff that probably should not have been shared that way, that does come as a little bit of a red flag. If you're not protecting your own property, or you're sending us slides with intellectual property from other people that you have collaborations with, I mean, some of those are red flags. So just be mindful of cybersecurity, even if you don't necessarily have all the right certifications. And then what was the other part again? You said, TRL level. So because our R&D groups are looking for lower TRL, we have a good range. So we specifically, we're not looking for suppliers. We're not looking for someone that can sell us 1,000 parts and then go and sell our competitor 1,000 parts. You need more than an idea, though. I would say I think I usually hear anywhere from like 4 to 7 is a good number for TRL. Bahari, any thoughts you want to add to that?
Yeah, so we do have a small business office that focus on suppliers, larger, a little bit of suppliers, but Sarah and I mostly are focusing on working with these companies on R&D projects. So yeah, the TRL could be low depending on the technology they are providing. If it's like, whoa, this technology is great, and we definitely want to make sure that we help them to mature it, so later on we can actually use their capabilities into our products. We will work with them.
Perfect. Thank you for that. That is definitely helpful, and I think provides a lot of insight to where certain companies can or cannot sort of fit themselves into what is somewhat of an opaque world from the outside, certainly. Before we conclude, Joe, I just wanted to see if you wanted to touch on that as well, if there's anything that might be different about Lockheed Martin versus BAE Systems.
No, I think they answered it pretty good. I mean, I think a misconception always comes up with TRL, and what you think is a TRL level is often just take that down a notch is what we consider a TRL level. And so that's how we work.
Me too.
Thanks. Love it. Love it. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm sure I speak for everyone here when we say, we've really learned a lot here and gotten a chance to peek behind the curtain in a way that's meaningful and impactful. So, I just want to thank you guys again. And I don't know if Josh has any concluding messages or whatnot, but yeah, from my perspective, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you. Yes, one-on-one, Joe, Sarah, Barry. Thank you all for joining us early in your insights. I just want to remind everybody that there's a process behind this, and it starts with starting these conversations early with the different agencies, with the TPOCs, as Joe mentioned, but also it starts earlier by trying to get your support and making sure that you have the partnerships in place that enable you to actually go out and be successful. And that is something that is very integral to our process. Of course, putting together the proposals themselves, whether it's an SBIR, OTA, CSO, BAA, it doesn't really matter. The program, it matters getting things set up and written correctly and making sure that you're competitive for all the ways that one becomes competitive. If you would like to be in touch with us, if you'd like to meet us at AUSA, you're going to be there on October 12th and in DC. We're happy to meet you, but we're also happy to talk beforehand. Or if you're not attending the conference, it'd be a good idea to have a conversation. There are a lot of great opportunities out there. This is a shortened year, especially for the SBIR process. And as a result, there is a very high volume over a short period of time of opportunities. And they're worthwhile to see if it's in alignment with you. With us, the process starts very clearly. We want to understand if there's a good fit for you. And ideally, there's not just one good fit program for you, but there's a high volume of good fit. And we find that that's the most successful approach. In addition, of course, to having great partners, it's also making sure you have multiple shots on goal. And that's something that's also a big part of the process that we pursue at Grant Engine. So thank you, everybody, for joining. Again, Joe, Sarah, Barre, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights. And don't forget, anybody who's attending this, Joe and Sarah and Barre all mentioned ways to engage with BA systems and with Lockheed Martin. Keep that in mind and pursue it wisely. And also feel free to reach out to Grant Engine. We're going to follow up with the content, the Grant Engine slides, and via email. And we'll happily be in touch with you. You get a chance to look at this last poll question that we put out there. But everybody else, have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barre, Sarah, Joe. The Grant Engine team, why don't we, Dan, give last few folks to respond to the third poll question, and then why don't we cancel the meeting and come right back on for the Grant Engine team. But Bahare, Sarah, we'll see you in October. Bahare, thank you so much. Joe, let us know who's going to be there, and if we're in the Bay Area, we'll look you up.
Sounds good.
All right.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Dan, hey, Myrna, it's good to see you. Let's keep, Dan, the poll questions open for just another minute or two, and then